Hi, I'm Monica Pastor. I'm an Area Associate Agent with the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension here in Maricopa County. My program is an agricultural literacy program and a school garden food safety program. So I work with teachers as well as schools on incorporating agriculture into the curriculum that they're already teaching. One of my programs is a school garden food safety program. It's a grant that I just received. It started in September of 2012. And the reason I even wrote the grant is I'm on the Department of Education's Farm to School program. And listening to how hard it is to get locally grown food into the school cafeteria just because there's so many barriers. You need to be an approved source, you need to have food safety in your farm, those type of things. And in the conversation, I found out even schools were not allowed to use what they are growing in their school gardens in the school cafeteria because they are not an approved source, and the Department of Health Services monitors the food code and it has to be an approved source, and I understood that. So I wrote this grant, and we're putting together guidelines, and we'll start training on ways to have a safe food supply so those items could now be used in the school gardens. The Arizona Department of Health Services has hired a registered sanitarian, and she will be going to the schools and certifying them if they're following these guidelines. And then that produce can be used in the school cafeteria, which I'm really excited about, and the schools I've talked to are really excited about it. One of our challenges is, and I'm hoping you guys could help me with this, is there's a lot of conversation about composting and especially manure and composting. And there are some schools that are using manure in their compost, but there are so many regulations on to make sure that compost is safe. And so we have a concern that will it get to the correct temperature levels? Will it be monitored correctly? Will it be put in a place that animals could not access it and then cause that there might be some problems with the compost? And so at this point in time, we're saying do not use compost on the edible crops. Use it anywhere else on the school grounds, but do not use it on the edible crops. So my challenge is how do we put together something so we can ensure that that compost is taken care of in the correct way and it can be safe, and we can then use it on the school garden and then be able to use that produce in the cafeteria. Our whole office area is surrounded by what we call demonstration areas, and this is one of our demonstrations. We do a rainwater harvesting. If you look at the roof, it just slopes a little bit and the water flows off and goes into anywhere you can see the brick. There's some storage containers underneath, and the water goes under there, and then we know how much water we have. If you look over here, there are cute little fish spouting the water, but there's water coming up from underneath and going back down. And so it's a passive way to harvest rainwater. We can make a patio area out of it and have tables and chairs if we want to, but still be able to collect rainwater underneath where we are. I wanted to give you a little bit of background about myself. I first like to proudly say that I'm a city girl who is interested in agriculture. And I like to say that because I want other kids to be interested in agriculture. We need to be able to feed our country, and we need the science behind it. We keep putting houses on top of farm ground, so we have to come up with a different way to provide the food that we need in this country. I don't want it to be sent out of country, that we are dependent upon others for our food source. So if I can get more kids excited about agriculture and looking at careers and the sciences to be able to feed our population, that's something that is very passionate for me. I came to this when I was in Girl Scouts. I was really excited about doing things with forestry, and so went down to the University of Arizona to get a degree in wildlife ecology. And in that process, I was asked to take an economics course. So I took an agricultural economics course and thoroughly loved it. Never even knew there was a degree like that. Ended up getting a bachelor's in agricultural economics, and at that point, I would have been working primarily as a farm loan officer. And when I was interviewing for jobs, people kept asking me, well, you don't have a background in agriculture. How can you give loans to these farmers when you don't even understand it? And I said, well, I didn't have a background in agricultural economics 4 years ago, so I've proven that I can learn, and I think I can learn this. Well, instead, I ended up getting a job with the Arizona Farm Bureau, which is a membership organization for farmers and ranchers, and worked for them for 6 years in various capacities, and then came over to the Maricopa County Farm Bureau. And in that process, working with them, I was constantly getting calls from teachers. Are there farmers who can come out and talk about agriculture? Can they share with us what they do in the field? And I realized this is something that's really important for kids to learn about agriculture. And so got involved with the National Ag in the Classroom program, which is through the United States Department of Agriculture, and just have kind of made that my passion, and then came over to the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, so that's all I do is the Agriculture in the Classroom program. We call it agricultural literacy just because we're not just in the classroom, we educate adults as well as children, and so we keep that going. I wanted to challenge you in your class to come up with a way that we can actually use the compost and manure in compost in the school gardens on the edible crops. Some of the issues is that the compost needs to come to a certain temperature, and it's 130 degrees to 150 degrees for a certain amount of time, and some research says 3 days, some research says 15 days, and then the compost just needs to be turned for a period of 1 to 2 months. And my concern is, will we have students who are conscientious enough to monitor that to make sure the temperatures are at the right levels? The concern is, especially with manure, you're going to introduce pathogens from that manure, and those could be viruses and bacteria, and it could be very dangerous to a child if those pathogens get into the food source. So it's something that's important. It's something that we want to be able to use in the school gardens. We've been using manure in gardening for thousands of years, but will they be monitored at the right temperature levels and the time frame that's needed to make sure it's a safe product that can be applied to the school and the garden and the edible products in the garden?